Hello sweet friends, and welcome to my channel Crafting with me, Indiana Jones. Today we have something spooky and romantic we like to call Valloween. Today's collaboration is hosted by Tracy Vanover and features creators such as Shabby Meets Bling, Up All Night DIY, Morena's Corner, Handy's Candy, and the Holiday Workshop, and yours truly. If you're anything like me, then you loved thrift store shopping, or even consignment store or antique store, even if it's just to browse around. But have you ever felt drawn to something? Like, out of all the places in the world, this item happened to be here? And then you wonder, where did it come from? And most importantly, what's the story behind it? Such is the case of this little ring that I found in a store, and I was so drawn to it. It was only $1, but I felt like it was so much more valuable. And then suddenly it seemed to come to life. It seemed to be drawing me into a story that I wanted to learn more about. I'm not a soothsayer or a fortune teller or a medium of any kind, but somehow I felt like the story started with a young seamstress from Paris. Inspired by this Parisian seamstress, I decided to create what I like to call a corset basket. Now this will be a perfect little gift basket for anybody for Valentine's Day, but with a spooky side, as though a vampire might wear this. We start with one of the wired paper baskets waste paper baskets, I should say, from Dollar Tree, and we start shaping it into a corseted form. As you can see, I already shaped in the waist, and all I did was press in from either side and create that lovely waist. Now, to create the bust, of course, I had to cut into the top of that waste paper basket, and with my little Luna checking in to make sure everything was okay. I suggest for this part, because you're cutting the wire and shaping this wire waste paper basket, that you use a glove. As you can see, I am trying to create the bust for this waste paper basket, and there you have it, a little corset, and you can use the basket just like that. I think it's adorable, especially if you want to give a Valentine's gift. Just like it could have a bottle of wine and maybe some wine glasses or champagne, or it can have some chocolates, but just the wire basket as it is would be fine. You can add some lace and some ribbon and really play into the whole, corset design. However, I did want to add the element of this beautiful fabric that I had, just to make it look a little bit more sexy, I suppose, and a little more Victorian, because after all, that's what I'm trying to create, is this vintage Victorian kind of spooky, vampires corset. That's what it looks like to me when I was all done. So here I am just trying to measure things out, and you just have to take your time and find ways to fold the fabric and mold it into place into this beautiful corseted waste paper basket. Once I was happy with the placement of the fabric, as you can see, I used the clips to make sure they stayed in place. I just started using my hot glue gun and glued all over so that I can cover the entire waste paper basket. Now I would suggest, if you have those little finger thingies, the finger protectors, to use that, because this is a wire paper basket, it goes right through. And you can see there in the background, I'm watching Ginger Chick Rehab there on my phone, but keep myself entertained, and she's kind of funny and I just like listening to her. So here I am just gluing everything together. This takes some patience, and again, like you can see there, I'm pleating and folding to make sure that the fabric adheres to the shape itself, but it is so worth it in the end. Once you have your fabric placed down, then you can trim it down to make sure that it, falls well on the table, and start adding your trim. Now, check this out. I have this beautiful trim, $2.48 for this whole bolt of this wonderful ruffled red, like wine red velvet. It is absolutely beautiful. Had I known I had this before Christmas, but there you go. Here I'm trying to figure out how to make myself cuffs and stuff with that velvet. It's just so pretty. So I decided to create like a skirt, like as though it was the beginning of an underskirt underneath that corset. So all I'm going to do is just add that one, ruffle. Now, as you can see, I cut things down too short, and that's why I have to add the ruffle, but I think it's going to really enhance this bustier corset. Now, as you can see, I'm just finalizing some of the gluing down of some of these items, and now I was trying to figure out whether to use buttons or bows. So here I'm using some little bows to match that wonderful red velvet beneath the corset. I just think it's so cute when all things match up like this. Now, when you create your own corset basket, remember you can make it in any color you like. You can make these in pink or white. Can you imagine how beautiful this would be for a bridal shower with all these beautiful white baskets? Now you can make like the bride's white, and then for all the bridesmaids, you can coordinate the color of the bridesmaids or the coordinating color of the wedding itself. Now all I'm doing is continuing to add some trim, because after all, what is anything Victorian without something flowery and lacy and just beautiful? So here I'm just adding some trim and making the last touches to this corseted basket. Once again, I felt as if the ring had another story to tell, but this time it was of an industrious young man, intelligent, hardworking, and so very much in love. But why was there so much sadness? I call this next project a reflection of love, because I decided to use this heart form that I had from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to mount on it this beautiful little mirror that I found at a thrift shop. So I'm just ripping off all that paper that we don't need that says Wi-Fi signal or what have you, and I'm going to just decoupage this beautiful black and rose-covered tissue paper tissue paper that I had in my stash. And actually, I hadn't seen this paper this whole last year because I couldn't find it in my mess, but now my room's not as messy. Now I can find things, so I don't have to go and buy anything new. So of course I'm just going to decoupage this using Mod Podge, and the trick that I use is I like to use a little iron. You don't have to use the little iron. You can use parchment paper and use a regular iron at very low heat with no steam, and just quickly apply the Mod Podge as I'm doing here. Let it dry a little bit, and once it's dry and it's still just a little tacky, that's when you add the paper. And to ensure you don't have any wrinkles at all, again, like I said before, using this little iron or a bigger iron is the best way to remove all the wrinkles in your project. Now you know I have a flair for the dramatic, so to remove the edges that are left over, yes, I set it on fire. This is something very easy to do. Just make sure you have some water around. I'm trying to turn off the light so you can see the fire and how it goes around both sides, and how easy it was just to get rid of the excess tissue paper that way. And it won't burn the material that's already Mod Podged. I guess Mod Podge is flame retardant, so that's why it only burned around the edges. Now look at this adorable little mirror that I found. It was not a thrift shop per se. It was like one of those flea markets outdoors, a church flea market. There were so many wonderful little things that I bought. They literally gave me 2 of these for $1. I couldn't pass it up. Look how perfect it is. And it is heavy resin. And I just thought it's beautiful and small, but I wanted to, feature it more on this heart. Now here all I'm doing is using this stencil and adding a bit of gold to the heart itself, just to add a little more glamour or glitz. Not necessarily glitz, but this antique gold just looks so pretty against the black. And as you can see, I touched up the black frame with a little bit of that antique gold just by dry brushing it. Now to add a little bit more age and vintage and just to add a little more gold, I'm using just, again, a dry brush technique or dry sponge technique and dabbing a little bit of that antique gold on the edges of the heart. And lastly, I'm going to attach the heart to the mirror, or the mirror to the heart, however you want to say it. But you can see there that it was very thick resin. And apparently it was gold originally, and they painted it black, and then I touched it up with gold. Go figure. Anyway, I just thought this was a lovely addition to any kind of dark academia Valentine's Day or Valloween decor, and I think it turned out so lovely. Once again, I felt as though the ring had another story to tell, and this time it was of an ill-fated voyage, for the young Parisian seamstress was on her way to meet up with her fiancé in the States. This is a fast and inexpensive way to celebrate Valloween. And of course, I do have some leftovers from Halloween that I always keep on hand. So using one of these tall cloches from the Dollar Tree and these two little skellies, I hope you have some skeletons on hand, I created this little cloche, and it's more of a romantic cloche because I'm going to include these beautiful red roses. And yes, I got these roses from Temu. Don't know exactly which Temu order it was, but it was a Temu order right before I had to do the Queen of Hearts Christmas tree, so that's what I use, these beautiful hearts. So all I'm doing is creating this foundation of hearts, and then I'm going to include the torsos of the little skellies right on top of the roses. I think that it just comes together so adorably. And of course, I make sure to put a little veil on the one that's supposed to be the bride, because after all, this is celebrating marriages and love. What I like the most about this little decor is, like I said before, you can use it for Valloween or you can save it for Halloween, and it's a small, cute little item that you can add to your decor in either one of these seasons, and I think it's adorable. Now I felt as if I was reading the words that she had written to her husband and their long-awaited reunion to finally become man and wife. I think in my recent videos, I had mentioned something about creating a fascinator. Well, today's that day, and this is what I'm using as my base. That's right, I'm using candy chocolate heart boxes. I took them apart, and I'm using that cardboard heart cutout, so you can use any cardboard heart cutout as the basis or the foundation for your fascinator if you want to create the same one. I did burn myself there, but that's okay, I'm used to it. Now, to this cardboard, I am adding some wires so that I can, just place it in the way that I want to. And I am just covering both sides of the heart. Now I'm using both hearts, and they are going to be attached at the top of the heart. I don't know how to say that, at the curvy part of the heart. And what I did here, what I'm doing is covering the the gluing that I did on one side with a little bit of this beautiful little ribbon. And I just wanted to, touch it up so that you couldn't see it while you were wearing it, or if somebody saw your hat, when they looked at the underside, they didn't see all that ugliness. So that's what I'm doing here. You're probably wondering, why am I doing a hat? But like I said before, I did want to do a Valentine's Day themed fascinator, and I thought it would just make sense that this lovely young woman from Paris would want to be dressed in her very best outfit, and she would create a fascinator so that she would meet up with her fiancé. Next, I'm gluing both sides of the fascinator, the two hearts together, and of course 2 hearts beat as one, and one part will be the front of the fascinator, the other side will be the back. And thanks to the wire that I placed in between the fabric and the cardboard, I can bend it into whatever shape I like. I should have added more wire just to give it a little more structure, but I think it's just going to work just fine. And again, you can cover this. I covered it in this special satin that is all like wrinkly and stuff. You can cover it in felt. You can cover it in whatever kind of fabric you like. Now, once I have that set up, I'm going to attach it to the headband. I would caution, however, if you would like to have, because this is a little too light of a headband, so it doesn't really hold on my head, so I should have added, maybe I should add a comb to the actual fascinator so it also stays in place and adds an additional stability to the hat. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. But all I'm doing here is just adding the headband to the fascinator using a little bit of hot glue and also some ribbon going across the headband onto the fascinator just to add a little more structure and stability. Next comes the fun part, all the all the enhancements that you want to make to this hat. And first of all, I have to use some black netting. I had this beautiful black wide netting tool and also this beautiful sparkly polka dot tool, which I thought was actually perfect for this hat, don't you think? Now I'm just scrunching them both together and gluing them on and then just trimming them so that it matches the shape that I want to have. Now, don't worry about all of that looking messy underneath because I'm going to cover it with this beautiful big wide striped bow. I think this is so Nightmare Before Christmas, Morticia Addams. I mean, I would think that if Morticia Addams, maybe Morticia Addams' grandmother, actually no, Morticia Addams has lived on forever, but maybe when she was a Victorian, she would wear a fascinator like this perhaps, maybe, who knows. Then again, I'm just adding this beautiful ribbon and I'm going to add those beautiful red roses, and something about the black, white, and red makes it so stark. Yes, it's kind of spooky, but it's also kind of romantic, so it fits into the motif of Valloween. Because I can see myself, actually, if I was invited to some kind of Valentine's Day dinner or tea party, I would wear this with a stunning black dress and just have the roses like as a focal point on my hat and maybe create, like a boutonniere or something for my lapel to wear a beautiful red rose as well. Now on the top of the fascinator, again, mimicking the same thing with the bottom ribbon with smaller ribbons, the white and black striped motif with those beautiful red roses, add some more tulle, add some bling, and there you have it, your perfectly made Valentine's Day fascinator. Just before I purchased the ring, I had this sensation of dark clouds overwhelming me around a dark sea, and I could only imagine what happened to this ill-fated couple. Once again, I was inspired by this story and by this wonderful, I guess it's a memento frame, a keepsake frame. Anyway, my brother had found it and gave it to me, and I decided to use it for my next project. Now, because I want to be able to interchange what I keep in this frame, I'm creating a backing just by having some cardboard that I had around the house and this beautiful music sheet that I had as well in my stash. And then I brought out Tim Holtz, and that's when everything really started to come together, because suddenly I was drawn to all these wonderful faces. And as I've said before, I'm always stunned by how these faces end up as part of our crafts, and these two stood out the most for me. Thinking of the seamstress and her young man, her young fiance waiting for her, I'd use this beautiful, again, this polka dotted tool, which I adore. And again, I found it in my stash. I had it already. So I glued it to the paper, and now I'm adding and attaching this beautiful rose colored or covered paper as well as vintage rose paper. And then I'm just going to add the couple as I see fit. Now with her, I just wanted to have her in a frame because I just thought it was very fitting. So I'm gluing her to a piece of, there's Luna, sorry about that. A piece of vintage paper that I had, and now I'm just adding more embellishments to, symbolize this young woman. The frame I also believe was from Tim Holtz, and I created a little bottle with these dried roses. I try to dry roses as much as I can when I have the opportunity because I think dried roses give such a vintage romantic feel. I had so much fun assembling this assemblage, and as you can see there, I used mini glue guns or glue sticks to create risers for both the girl and the boy here. And all I was doing was adding all of these accessories and items which I felt symbolized this young couple as I had gotten to know them in my own imagination. And sometimes I felt a little sad as what their fate might have been. But then I thought, wait a minute, I have the ring. It's right here so you can see it. I was trying to create a way to hold it into that assemblage and finally decided to use a bow. So if the ring survived the voyage, more than likely she did too. Thank you once again, Tracy, for thinking of this wonderful collaboration, and to all of my friends, Shabby Meets Bling, Up All Night DIY, Morena's Corners, Handy Scandy, and the Holiday Workshop for joining us to celebrate. This is Valloween. Please check out the rest of the playlist and all of these wonderful channels in the description down below. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and to all of you, thank you. And as I always say, stay safe, be kind, God bless each and every one of you, and remember to live the adventure and have a wonderful Valentine's Day.